Yeah, if you just make sure I think Jen will let us know if it's not working.
We're still learning.
Are we ready?
Yeah, if you can just state your name and
I'm Jim Murphy. I live on 395 South Main Street up in by Johnny Cake Hill.
Okay.
Right on Route 7.
Yep.
Going south. They kind of call me the mayor of the hill. I've been up there since 1963 when they built my house. I've been kind of following on back many years ago when Jack was here. Before I was with Channel 10 and here a lot of time with their camera setting up, videotaping that after I had.
That's why I thought you were here tonight.
Pardon?
I thought that's why you were here tonight to videotape.
No, that's right. We don't do that anymore. I'm not even visiting them anymore, but I done them up to 2015 before I did other things. But, what I've been, this is the new biogas plant that's going in. I don't know if you know where Magnan Farm is. Okay, and there's back, what, 20 years ago, that's when they were planning to put a road up that way, and it was going to come right up in front of my house. All the trucks going into the industrial park on the south end of town. The neighbors are a little concerned about what's going on with the new plants going up. I've been down there twice. I've talked to one contractor. He said, "Oh, we're coming here." Oops, excuse me. And another man said, "Well, the plant's going to be over there." But I was just a little concerned. I could tell the people up there, and they're not going to try to sneak that road across there again. Because that was the big thing. The plant is a good idea. I'm all for it. In fact, two houses down from me, the young kid there, he's going to be working in the plant. He's my next door neighbor. So
No, they put a new road from Ben and Jerry's all the way in to where this plant is gonna be and beyond.
Yeah.
There's a big cul-de-sac in there. There's fire hydrants, there's water and sewer and that's.
yeah. Oh yeah, I got maps of it. I followed it pretty close. I was down there last week and I heard some noise, but they're cutting power line all the trees out from there. But we're kind of concerned about the coming in. The other thing I'm kind of concerned, it says 50,000 gallons a day coming in by truck in the plant. If that's what, 10, 20 truckloads a day? I feel pretty sorry for the people.
Should be 10.
Yeah, about 10, okay. I feel sorry about the people on South Main Street, because that's going to just add more and more and more trucks to their place coming in from every direction. It's one of those things. In fact, one of your town managers years ago, when upstairs there, he's gone now. I drew up before the industrial park, because I drew up a schematic of how the road should go in. And he looked at it and said, "We got a problem, Jim." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "It makes sense." But it didn't anyway. So, but they're not planning on coming up that road, sneaking up on it, because they've got the road, Magnan Road, that goes right up to the tracks.
Right, but they won't cross those tracks.
They won't.
Because I used to own a farm next to Magnum's and that's terrible. Somebody got killed there several years ago.
I remember, yep, they were up there with
Backhoe.
forklift. I think
Something.
they went up there and turned in front of the train. Never heard
Right,
of it.
with the
But that's what I
backhoe.
did. I worked for the railroad most of my life.
Yeah.
I had started in 1955.
But I used to cross those tracks and I got my plow stuck on the rail. And we couldn't back them off. So I had to go all the way around with a tractor and pull them backwards. So that's no place to be crossing with a truck or anything. It's terrible.
Yeah, it was bad. In fact, the guy never looked, and the other guy tried to pull him out of the backhoe he was working from.
Yeah,
And it was illegal too,
yeah.
because where they came across, I was down the railroad when they came down and told the guy who owns the place up there, we're closing that down. And they put the blocks in, stop any traffic from going through. But,
okay, so Mr. Murphy, so your concern is whether or not if they were to extend that road, I'm just looking at it on the map here, so.
you see how the
Magnet
cul-de-sac
Drive,
is.
Yep.
Okay.
So
If you-
for,
If you go straight east across the tracks,
Yep.
okay, you come up behind the farm. They were gonna go up and go between the barn and the house across from me,
sure,
right directly.
but it sounds like we're not doing that though, right? So, okay,
Then we're good.
then, okay.
We're good. Mr. Murphy.
And she's my neighbor.
Next one.
I
On
think
the other
we're,
side.
yeah, okay, I just, okay, if that's the concern and that's not something that's.
The road's
yeah,
all built.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a big cul-de-sac and.
Yeah.
Yep,
But what I'm saying,
been down there.
the sack is there, then it's got, they put in curbs.
Yeah,
last
you
year.
got curbs, you got trees.
It's not- but then
Where
you
the
got the
tree to
tree
go.
runs out, how they
And
put up
that,
there.
that whole plant is sitting there in the hay, because they delivered it this spring and the grass is growing all up through.
Now,
it.
where is the plant going to be? Closer to Ben and Jerry's?
Yeah, just where the hedgerow is there,
Okay, yeah.
there's a like a hole already dug where it's gonna go. And it's, yeah, probably less than 100 yards from the Ben and Jerry's line, right behind
Okay,
it.
yeah, yeah. Here's the one, the picture they showed, and it's just out here then.
Yep.
So that's,
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Murphy. I think we're.
well,
time-
I lived on Nason most of my life. That's where I was born, big house on the corner. Lived there for years and years until I built my house. But, I've been in the town since 62, so.
Fair amount of time.
I'm glad I'm here, so.
Me too.
Brendan knows me because I've
Oh.
also been at the museum for 46 years. They're gonna hang me on the wall with an article. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. That's funny.
Yes.
Anyone else want to make a, oh,
I got a question.
Mr. Loria, come on up.
Sure. I was reading on your website. I was wondering about the old town garage. I think I read you got like a $20,000 study to what to do with that property. I mean, you've got the new Public Works town garage. Shouldn't that be for sale? For a developer to come in and put a big hotel? So we'd look like Lake George with a place to have wedding receptions and stuff. I mean, we don't need two town garages, right?
Mhm.
So I was kind of wondering, what's the status for the old town
Yes,
garage?
someone might be able to answer it more detail than myself. I know there was obviously a check to see what we can do, because first we had checked for contamination, which the report came back better than expected, which is always a pleasantry. And then I think second, we were kind of looking at working with the state to turn it into maybe a boat launch as an option, just as another, plus a public place there for, folks to be able to access it. But does someone have a bit more information
Yeah,
where we're
so-
at with that, or?
We started the process with an environmental site assessment, and I think we went through 2 or 3 different phases of that. There was a plume that we monitored with monitoring wells for a few years until the state was satisfied with the data we reported. We were able to cap it. Our biggest issue with that site for redevelopment is a lack of soils that would support a septic system. I don't think that we could have rebuilt the town garage there and had a septic system large enough to support the employees that we would have needed to support. So, a small bed and breakfast even is out of the equation, unfortunately. So the thought was, let's take some pressure off that halfway point boat launch that cuts the road down to single lane traffic and is a real liability, and work in hand with the state to bring some federal grant dollars into St. Albans to cap that all off and put in a ramp, and at least in the short term, have a kayak canoe launch with a public pavilion of some kind, maybe with some outhouses, since we can't support an on-site septic system like we can at the Bay Park. And then eventually, there's some dredging that needs to be done to get in a full-blown boat launch, which is permissible under state and federal law. The marina is, I think, about to do that now. There's also a barge that's sunk that would be in the way of boat traffic using that property, but the marina owners received an estimate to remove the barge a few years ago, and I think that estimate was 25,000. So it's not as big of a deal as we may have been made to believe. So there are T's to cross and I's to dot, but the fact of the matter is, until we have some form of public wastewater down here, whether it's the tens of millions of dollars it would take to extend the city service, or we commissioned a study to look at decentralized wastewater systems in the Bay Area, which are giant mound systems meant to be managed by a municipality or utility within the municipality, and that would service several houses and maybe businesses. So until either one of those two options come up, the best thing to do would be, in our mind, to keep it something that can be used by the public, that would alleviate some other needs and that would bring money into the area. And we think fishing access is a real win. So that's where we're at with it now. But if there's anyone out there listening that wants to redevelop that property or has a light bulb above their head and wants to approach a town, reach out to the manager and make us aware of what you're thinking. And we'd love to hear from you.
It's too bad, it just doesn't have all the sewage and everything that you would need.
Yeah, it's a big limiting.
Well, we thought
factor.
about placing the new
Definitely.
town hall there and not buying this parcel. That area of the field, right up where that little hill is, it passed a percolation test that we could not get that neighboring property to pass. So we had to spend, the voters approved $200,000 to buy this parcel, when we just simply could have put it over there, but we couldn't support all of our employees.
Okay, I had another thing I wanted to ask about too. I think I read there's like a $40,000 study for water quality going into the lake. I think. Is that right?
We got a $50,000 study. Dave can,
Yeah, so I got a grant for 40,000 local match. We're gonna look at the stormwater runoff from Upper Road to.
Because if you pull up Google Earth and you go over to the Black Bridge and you see all this green coming in and you trace it back and it goes right to that farm. And it seems like he has all these open manure pits. Like, why don't we just help this guy get some slurry store and put all his manure enclosed so it won't leach in, because you can just see all the green go right up to that farm. And it just seems like that's a major pollutant right there. You know, can you pull it
address
up?
that, Dave.
Yep.
Google it?
Oh, I don't have access to that. Yeah, it's
Oh.
definitely above my pay grade.
You can't
Know
put
that.
Google Earth?
Dave, you wanna,
You got back.
Right, that's where the city wastewater, that's where the green stuff is. There is a manure pit for that farm.
It just seems like.
Yeah, if we could hold on just one at a time, please, so we can hear everything, please. So I've Donna finish up.
Oh, he was talking about a wastewater
Yep.
plant?
Well, the city wastewater line empties in behind that farm and that swamp. And it has for-
There's a whole,
Okay,
there's a whole lot of stuff
complicated.
going on there, but I can assure you
it's not just the farm.
that it's probably not the farm that much. That manure pit is certified by a bunch of engineers and there's nothing, the lower berm on that manure pit is 80 foot of clay thick. There's
So
nothing,
heavy rain's not gonna flood it over.
No,
no,
not like-
well, it'll hold,
Not like the sewer plant.
it'll hold a lot of manure.
Okay.
So it's not, it looks like that on the imagery because that's where Jewett Brook really comes to a complete stop.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of pollutants going in the water from other places. And some of it's coming from the farmland. In a non-point source, it's definitely not coming from the manure pit, because that's a point source and that farm's inspected every year. So that's, they can't get away with that.
Well, thank you. That's-
So it's coming from a legacy of many, many years of problems. And so that's the story on that.
Uphill road.
Uphill problem.
Okay, well, thank you for explaining
I
that.
just want to make a quick comment on that. I saw something somewhere. I don't know what watershed association, but they show, there's this thing called duckweed seed, I believe, right, Jeff? It's small and green and actually it looks like it's masses of algae. People get confused by it, but
Floats right on
it's
top.
I
seed.
think it's out there right now.
It's out there, it's seed. People are like, oh my God, look at all that. If you actually scoop it up, it's a bunch of little seeds. So people see that, they freak out.
There, it's a big, I don't know, I can't think of the right word right now, but for lack of a better word, swamp out there. Like couple few hundred acres. It's a huge area. And so there's a lot of ecosystem things going on in that area, and there's nowhere for that water to go. It's stagnant. If you kayak out there, it's only 1.5 feet deep. It's not, it's mud. I don't think you could walk it, you'd sink over your head, but you can reach down with your paddle and
So we just need to set up a water filtration system over there to help clean the water
So-
before it goes into the lake.
so with that, I can speak to that the state of Vermont is actually working with that farm to come up with what they call a treatment train. So they're gonna try to treat the water in Jewett Brook before it hits there and try to pull phosphorus out of it.
That would,
I have no idea how well that's gonna work. But 90% of the pollution that goes into that lake from that estuary, if you will, comes in the 10 heaviest flow days of the year. And it's really hard to design something to handle the 10 heaviest flow days of the year. So I want.
I've read online about different cities, whatever, where instead of having the water shoot straight down the brooks and stuff, they make like these little ecosystems with plants and stuff, so it kind of pools there a little bit and helps to soak up the rainwater a
They're-
little bit.
they're
before it
doing
goes
that.
Down.
If you look at Jewett Brook, they've done some of that. They're It's gonna change. They're gonna dump a bunch of money in that in the next few years. So
Great.
hopefully things will.
A lot of mosquitoes. I used to work there in high school, but my father-in-law owned it actually. So I had to build a fence down through the swamp for the heifers. So I go down, the base store was in the brick building. I go down there and buy 3-4 cans of off. Just spray myself till I was dripping, then I'd go down in there with my fence bucket and stuff. And it was like a black swarm of mosquitoes on me. As soon as the off was gone, I was gone. Right at it.
You can probably remember Roland Keenan planning the boat park in there, they've been taking out of that place in there.
Yeah.
We got the blueprint of the museum.
That was all forest, right? They went in and cut the trees down.
Yeah.
The trees up there.
Yeah, they used to be forested.
Well,
Oh, yeah, one of the worst.
my father-in-law sold that land to the state. It went with that Gates ranch there.
And I know you're gonna talk about the town hall, that's on the agenda, so I just, I don't really need to ask because you're gonna report on it. I'd still like to see the museum, because I heard that we give money to the St. Albans Museum.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I was wondering how much you get, how much of our budget goes to the city museum?
Well, it's not a city museum. It's a St. Albans. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things up there that are both municipalities or Franklin County.
And I know like Fairfax, they turned their old town hall into a museum.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I think it'd be nice if we could have,
Have you been
Historic
to
stuff in
Have you been to the St. Albans Museum?
oh yeah, it's a nice museum. And like, there's a lot of history down here at the bay too, about all the shipping that used to go out of here and everything.
Yeah, they've done a lot of work over even the last year. They helped us with the names for the places in here and to find stuff. They did some work on this old stone house, I think, a couple of years back too. So they've actually been helpful whenever we've asked for something. They definitely have.
I'd go on record saying that the St. Albans Museum is one of, if not the best, publicly maintained museums in the state of Vermont, and it is
Mhm.
a one of one.
I just want to save our town hall. that's all.
Any other public comments from anyone? Yep, in the back, and then we'll come you, hold on. Saw her first. Yep, Pat, come on up.
Okay, my comment is on the old town hall. I live directly right beside it. And I have been over there cleaning the old town hall, cutting down the brush in front. And I'm wondering why that can't be mowed better than what it is. It's going 2 weeks sometimes before it's mowed. And out back, you look, my yard is all nice and short. And they mowed this weekend. I don't blame the kids. I don't know if they know how to lower the mowers. I mean, it's chopped up. It's a mess. It looks like hell. And that should be cleaned up. And I did go over with my clippers. I cut out a lot of the old trees that were growing in front of the building. And I've been cleaning out the flowers, and Sally and I planted flowers. Oh, by the way, where'd that flagpole go?
Flagpole? I'm not sure. I mean, in terms of the, so to say, in terms of the maintenance of it, I mean, I think Dave hears what you're saying, and I assume Dave will take charge of that and make sure that that's taken care of. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about if you're over clipping stuff. I'm not sure if that's okay.
Well, I weeded
just-
and clipped it. It looked like hell. I mean, somebody
I-
needs to clean it.
If it were me, I'd probably do it too. I'm just saying, as sitting on this side of the table, that if we can at least coordinate with Dave, that would be, or with Sean.
Well, it looks a lot better than it did, but it still needs a lot more.
I agree. I'm sure it does. Yeah, definitely. Yep, and you had the flagpole? I don't know if it was. I'm not sure about the flagpole.
Yeah, I got one day they're just hauling that flagpole out and taking it away, and I wondered where it went.
The DPW.
Is that the new DPW building? Okay.
Where's that?
Up at the town garage.
The new.
On Brittany Road? Okay.
See what else?
So that's where it went.
So what are the plans for that town hall? Is anybody?
Well, I'm gonna wait and we actually do have that on the agenda. So
Okay.
we'll wait until the town manager brings that up and gives us an update on what he has, because I would redirect you to him right now anyway, so. And anything else, Pat?
No, I just want to see the town hall, the grounds cleaned up a little bit better.
Okay.
I'm sure the kids are trying, but they need a little help.
No, it's sometimes you need to have some reinforcement,
All right.
no doubt. Thank you.
you.
Paul, do you have a question? Or a comment, Paul?
Yeah, just a quick one. It was brought up about the rain and all. We get a report now when the city septic system sewage plant overflows.
You can see it online.
Yeah, I think
I can see it at the brook in the morning.
Yeah.
But
If you want to see how many times there's been issues with any towns in the state, go online to the Department of Environmental.
Something, yeah, yeah.
EC, and they have all the reports from Newski, everyone that runs over.
no, I mean, do you get a report the morning after or the night it happens, so people around the area can be notified, especially the beach. I haven't seen any cyanobacteria down there this year yet, and I know about the green stuff. It's early. Oh, I know it is. I know it is. Burlington's had it, but we've been good.
Dave can answer that question.
I'm good.
But I don't know.
Thank you, Paul.
With it, yeah. But I can give you a report on the day it happened. They give you the month, or report at the end of the month, before the month. I don't know which day.
We should be proactive and reactive to make sure that somehow the state finds a way to make that no longer occur. That's, I don't know what Donna's speaking about with the weed or the seeds coming down, but we need to make sure that the overflow of the sewer plant is coming down.
I'm on DEC's website now and there's nothing reported in the last month it's all from Rutland. City of Rutland was the only one that issued a
Really?
report. I'm on the state's website now. I searched the last 30 days on permissible wet weather discharges. They call them wet weather combined sewer overflows. And I have nothing here from St. Albans in that time frame. It's all from Rutland. From what I can find.
Thanks, Brendan. Any other comments? I'm sorry?
It should be down to 71 right now.
As it is.
Yeah. You can, feel free to put it lower if you'd like. But it's at,
Oh, I'm just, women make it fun. But I appreciate
she
it.
really cares about the town hall. Yeah.
Nice. That's 77 on my thermometer.
Dave,
Thank you, Brendan.
I got one thing, Dave, coming down tonight, and I had another person talk to me about it, coming out of the industrial park onto Nason. There's a grass growing up over the guardrail, so you've got to pull way out to see up Nason. Somebody could go up there. I know what you're saying.
Yes, I can attest to that. It's really difficult to see, right?
E-Bucket or whatever, yeah.
If we have any others, we can send those to Dave, because I'm sure there's a lot of places. I know near my street, they took care of it, got a little long, and I think a neighbor got some, but. All right. Public comment? Yep. Yeah, I agree.
Like new.
I agree. Yeah, yeah. Just drove by on the way down here. It does. Looks awesome right now.
But.
Yep.
But you stop walking in the park, you walk up the road now, because I see you every morning walking up.
All the way up over the hill.
But you used to do loops.
No.
Oh. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Sean for the town manager's report, please.
Yes, first thing we have is the, I know everybody's waiting for the town hall. It's next. The investment policy. I don't know if Anna would like to speak to that at all.
It's the same policy.
Yeah.
It varies on the
Mhm.
that we find in 2011 and verbatim what the OCT offers.
Yep, I'll just mention exactly. It's the same. We had a very long discussion about this at our last meeting. This is the investment policy that we brought up kind of as not really a draft, but just a reminder that this is what we're currently working under. Just in a nutshell, the investment policy is allows the treasurer and the select board to make investments for the town with its town funds, if it can. The objectives, and there's actually 4 of them. There's 3 from the original VLTC model policy. There's a 4th one in this one as well. But number 1 is safety of principal, that we don't lose value in our funds. 2 is liquidity, meaning if we, obviously cash is cash, it's available immediately. If we were to use some other type of investment vehicle, that it could be made into cash. If it's liquid, it means it can be made into cash within just a couple of days at the most. 3 is yield, of course, trying to get at least a respectable return on those funds. If going interest rates out there are just making up a number here, 3%, then we should be getting at least close to 3 or higher, somewhere that's respectable. Okay. The 4th one that is in here that's probably not as important as the other 3, but still important, is that it's possibly a local investment, meaning if all things were equal and we have People's Trust Company of St. Albans and we have Bank of America that has a branch in 49 states, Vermont's the only one that doesn't, we're going to choose People's Trust Company of St. Albans because those loans are going to go to local people. You know, they're not through our local government. They're still there as a local investment. It lists, the policy lists several types of investments that we can use, including things like U.S. Treasury bonds with short terms, bank acceptances, certificates of deposit, money market mutual funds that have $1 attached to its value, commercial paper, other things like that. We talked last time specifically, because we do have a large balance in the bank right now, about allocating maybe up to 50% of it just in very short-term CDs. 3, 6, 9 months. So that was the only decision that's been made. And so this policy really, I think, is just to put a new date that it's been reviewed on it. There's no real changes to it. Any other discussion, first of all, or questions? And
Motion
then,
to approve.
Second.
okay, any other questions or comments then on the motion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? No? Okay. I'm going to, I'll sign it and then pass it along here. But before I do that, I'll mention Sean, back over to you then for the former town hall update.
Sure, yeah. If you haven't seen the, I guess, the short to say RFP, but I'm calling it a business opportunity. That's mostly because as a call to developers. So by doing it this way, instead of just selling it outright, it gives the town, the select board, more control over its end use. So it prevents, just the developer or anybody buying it, saying they're going to do this, and then 5-10 years down the road, it's still sitting empty. So there's, as you all know, should probably better than I do. I've been here a month. There are challenges to that building, but I do feel pretty good. I've already had a pretty decent amount of interest on it. I've showed it to a couple people. I've spoken to developers about it. So the deadline is September 1st for proposals, and hopefully we get a good slew of proposals for it. So, but it really does, we'll enter into an agreement with whoever, we pick as the best plan, and then move forward from that. But and doing this with other properties and other places, I think this is the best route to go, because it essentially still gives us control over its future. And so I'm just looking forward to it. That's a whole lot of nothing right there, but that's kind of where we're at until September 1st.
So Sean, I was going to ask a question and we'll come in here. So if folks did want to submit a proposal, where do they go to find that information?
It's on our website.
Right
I
on
think
the
they also
website?
put it on our Facebook, but yeah, it's right on our homepage.
Okay. Question, Paul, for Sean?
Yes. Are there any documents still in the cellar vault?
I don't believe so.
The cellar, one down here.
Those will be removed.
Yeah.
Tests are required.
Yeah, there's a problem, I know, with getting them out of there, but one of the challenges I understand is I hear that they may be some of the earliest school records, the town of St. Albans. And if you contact the Secretary of State's office about removing those, and storing them, you know, some people like to see them in this building. But the Secretary of State's office retains that, I believe, that type of record.
Okay.
For the town of the state of Vermont.
Mhm.
And they may have the expertise, they should have certainly, to get them out of there safely
Okay,
and preserve and possibly copy, but they also become available to the public.
okay. Maybe
That-
digitize them.
That's even more important.
Mhm.
I also hear that's, that
I get you.
there are some town records, you've got property records
I have the property records, I have.
from the city,
Yes.
you brought that.
I
up.
brought
Yeah,
it down. I also have, 3 or 4 full lots of school records in my law right now. There's not many down there, just like, last time I was down there, there's like old funeral, that's fine, that was red. Really, I don't have time to go down there. So.
that's just a concern. That concern is
Mhm.
raised.
Yeah.
Trying to make it known
Yeah.
that there may be the very early school records down there.
I have
Mhm.
You have. one.
in the law.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I'm actually going to Montpelier next week
if you-
to meet with,
if you get that,
I just put my file stuff in minutes next time.
Yeah.
yeah.
Sean, any other information with that?
I guess on that front, I can bring that up to the state. I'm meeting with a few departments and agencies next week in Montpelier, so maybe I can just kick some tires on that conversation, see where we can go.
If you can go to the website and when's the deadline, you said?
September 1st.
September 1st, okay. Pat, give a quick question?
Yeah, I have a question on the town hall.
Mhm.
Look at is that the inside of the building,
For sure.
or make sure it's in range, they just gotta fix it. You're gonna have to put eavesdrops up on my side facing my building.
Mhm.
I had the roots flood this week from that rain.
Yeah.
Our building was flooded, my deck, all the water was all washed up on my deck.
Mhm.
It came off that building massive.
Yeah, that'll be part of any agreement that we enter into. Yeah.
I never said anything with our town, how they didn't want to have, but.
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta spend money, gotta do this, that.
Mhm.
I hate not fixing that.
That, I would assume that would be addressed. Well, it would be addressed. in
Yes,
the agreement,
thank you, Pat.
so.
If there's pictures or other, pieces of concern like that, if you definitely email Sean or ultimately to Dave, but to get on that. So thank you.
Yeah. Plus with the due diligence of anybody that's gonna buy it, that's all gonna be addressed.
All right, we on the stormwater here, Sean,
Yeah.
stormwater update. I think we get some good news and
Yeah,
then
very good news.
we talk from there.
So I can let Dave talk on this, because he deserves the credit for this one. Talk about the stormwater.
Do you want to come up, Dave, too? Would you mind to the speaker?
I think you'll remember this one.
So Sean and I attended a meeting last week where they were going to provide funding to the MS4 communities. I guess there's 15 of them in the state. And, they told us we were going to be getting the $200,000. And then they said there was this formula for calculating how much more we would get. And I just immediately asked them if they could provide me the data, because they did a statistical analysis on all the phosphorus reduction numbers that the MS4 communities needed to achieve. So I looked at those and it didn't really pass my sanity check just from a math standpoint. So I ran the statistics on my own and I'm like, yeah, this is not correct. So I emailed my numbers back to them, just asked them to very nicely verify, make sure my numbers were wrong, theirs were correct, whatever. And they came back and said, yes, indeed, there was a formula, there was an error in their formula on their spreadsheet. And it ended up getting us, another $259,000. So instead of us having 200,000, we're gonna have 459,000.
Yeah.
So
Rounding errors happen all the time.
they do. And we know we can spend that money.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge amount difference. And again, I'm sure everyone can hear him, but he's saying our first estimate was we were going to receive $200,000 for a stormwater utility. And now after just double checking the math, it's 460,000.
That's correct.
Couple hundred less than that, but
Yep.
basically to that amount.
Wonder if they
Which
did
is
that in
wonderful.
every town.
I don't know.
Yeah,
So what they had to do was go back and take money away from all the other
Yeah.
towns to get us back.
that's okay.
Add it up.
So when do we receive those funds? Does anyone know?
So we still need to receive the grant agreement. They're gonna work on those, and I believe we're gonna have those by the end of the month. And then we would bring that forward to everybody to see that,
Okay.
and then we'll see what the strings are attached to it.
So in order to get that money, we have to have a specific project that's identified.
That one, they said it doesn't have to go to a specific project.
Mhm.
It's just money into our MS4. Well, we have to do projects off of our phosphorus control plan. Those are the first projects we have to do, which we have enough.
Yep.
Of those projects to do. But for those that don't have enough from their phosphorus control plans, they can use them for projects off of their flow restoration plans.
Mhm.
I don't think we'll get to those with this money,
Gotcha.
because we've got plenty of PCP projects to do.
Yeah.
Did they give any indication of they're gonna continue to support?
That was a
this
question I had for
MS4
them.
thing That we've been talking about.
I asked them if this was gonna be an annual thing or it was a one-time thing, and they said it was gonna be a one-time thing for now.
Yeah, so it's with the last of the ARPA funds. So that's why these projects have a hard deadline of
Yeah.
2026. So there's not gonna be any extension for any projects that these funds are used for.
Okay. So I just got two, I guess, questions or points here. First one is, it's a lot more. And given the discussion we had last time with, some of the folks in St. Albans Town that are now exempt into paying into the stormwater fund, mostly agricultural. Is it possible? And I don't know if you can answer this, Dave or Sean or someone else, but is it possible for us to give it? This is a huge difference. It's not like we've got an extra $10,000. I mean, we've got an extra $250,000. Is it possible to change our budget for the stormwater utility to reflect the extra money, almost cut what we're going to raise in half? Is that possible? Given this is again, significant difference.
I don't know that that's good policy. You're using one-time money.
my-
to cut
well,
annual
No,
expense.
my first question is it possible?
Anything's possible. I would. For that.
So we're gonna have, this is not the only project we have, so there's gonna be, there already is another project and another project.
Governor Douglas told us all in his farewell address and was pretty much addressing the incoming Shumlin administration not to use one-time funds from stimulus bills embedded into your general fund budget, which stormwater utility might as well be within the general fund. It's branched off so that we can charge other entities fees. We saw the Shumlin administration grow our 4.6 or $8 billion budget to 6.2 billion over 3 years. And we faced an affordability crisis that we're still grappling with today. And I think it's bad policy to use one-time money to cut an annual expense. That's why we have CIPs. That's why we have long-term planning. That's why we try to structure our police contracts not to go up and down, left and right as we buy capital equipment. And you're also talking about cutting a $50 fee to $25 once just to raise it to $50 the following year. It's not like you're passing on situation changing money to taxpayers. I think we're behind on our PCP and our FRP. And that's because we waited through much of the Trump administration, seeing if a Scott Perry EPA would change our deadlines or our requirements, and he didn't. So this is just money that we should be using to catch up, not get further behind. And then folks will get a bill from us this month for 25 and then get a bill next year for 50 and wondered why we doubled it instead of wondering why we cut it in half for a year. So that's my piece on that.
But I guess my comment to that is you contradicted yourself a little bit in that you said we have an affordability crisis. So why would you cut the funding? And that's,
You're talking $4 a month.
and my thing is that's exactly why you cut it, is because it's not affordable for the townspeople, possibly. The second thing thing, if I didn't lose my track, my track there was, I'll have to come back to it, but could we change the policy of how we use the funding so that we don't spend the money that we raise unless it's partnered with other money? We talked about that in the last meeting, so that we, because I think it's kind of nutty that we would have enough money in 2 years to take on the biggest project in St. Albans with no funding from the state or federal government. To me, if that's the case, we've raised too much money.
Now, I'm still a fan of saying that the state has to somehow provide us 50% of our spending in stormwater. But as it pertains to cutting a fee once to reinstate it the following year with one-time money, I don't agree with that. So if we want to pivot back to that first conversation we had a couple weeks ago about how we want to structure our funding formula, set hard caps, and make sure that our relationship with the state as far as stormwater funding goes reflects the fact that we need to be partners in it, and it's not all on the town's back. I would support that. But cutting it just, I mean, we're charging $50 to an average homeowner. If you cut that to 25, I think if you want to save somebody $2 a month, you've got a lot more opportunity within the general fund. If we really wanted to start looking at cuts, if we want to lower the tax rate to save people money, let's look at ancillary expenses. We can cut parks, cut funding for parks. If the parks look like crap in 2035 and 2036, we aren't going to have 1,000 people in town with liens with title defects, like we would if we don't reach our stormwater obligations. I mean, but that's my 2 cents. I agree with you, Jeff, that we need to look at that formula and create better policy within the stormwater utility ordinance. But
Yeah, that was actually my second point, but I want to toss that to Dave. I don't think you were here at our last meeting, and we'd been given the phosphorus control plan, and then the 2 different
Flow restoration.
Brook and those pieces, and there was a lot of documents there. It was, I don't know, 150 pages or so. I didn't read every word of everything, but what I was looking through, what I was trying to find is a formula for how projects are divvied up. If there's a big project, how much should the HOA be willing to, or should they be paying? How much should the town put in? Because I felt like, and I didn't find one, right? So if it felt like it was kind of every project came up and we were kind of taking a look at that one. And in fairness to, just a small aside, I received an email today from, someone who lives in Tanglewood, just asking about questions, and they presented a very good perspective. And our job, of course, is to try to, bring up their perspective, but also balance it with everybody else who's in town, who doesn't have, a big project they have to do. So, I mean, do you have a different understanding? Look, those documents better than I do.
When Emily was setting this up, I think she was trying to base it on the percent impervious. If the town has 60% impervious and the HOA has 40%, well, then they would pay 40%, we would pay 60%. If it's flipped, then the town would pay 40 and HOA would pay 60. So I think that's where she was trying to hit.
So our portion, then you're saying, because I did find that in there, is just strictly the town's responsibility on impervious surface, which usually is just going to be roads or sidewalks.
like we maintain Green Mountain and Hill Farm, right? Green Mountain Drive and Hill Farm, and they both have stormwater system permitting issues and actual infrastructure issues that need to be addressed.
Well, I can speak to Hill Farm because that's where I live.
Right.
But all we got in there is a couple of culverts and the ditch. So there's no ponds or anything in there. Green Mountain, I believe when that project was permitted, all the rooftops and all that drainage goes out into a pipe out into the road. And then goes out to either I think it goes, I would have to check this to verify. With my understanding, there's a couple of catch basins at the end of those cul-de-sacs. And it goes from there out into that open area. I guess it's the Velco right away out there. Is that what that is?
I think you're right. Yeah. To the east of it.
And then there's some of it that then goes across underneath Nason. where, that's kind of the entrance into that.
That's the
development.
industrial part,
Yeah.
yeah.
And there's a small project identified there that we can do ourselves. And we can get the phosphorus credits for that pretty
Mhm.
easily, just cleaning that out and then cleaning it out on the outlet, putting in some check dams and whatnot.
Would it,
That's pretty simple.
I'm just saying, because we're trying to, I think what we discussed last time was having some portion we're expecting to use or get federal or state monies. And I'm wondering in that formula you had, if we had, say, the town had 40% and the neighborhood had 60, I mean, I'm wondering if there's a way to say, we still want to have the state and federal pay, try to get grants for half of it. And then we would, if it's 40-60, then we would
That'd
pay
be fine with
40% for
banking
the
if
rest,
you-
60 for the
If
rest.
you get a grant that covered 80% of an expensive project, and you can straight face me at the end of the year that 50% of what we spent on all the projects in town with state money, I'd be okay with banking and allocating and making the math work at the end.
Yep.
As a means of getting things done without having to apply project by project, grant by grant, rejection by rejection.
Yes.
But we need to arrive at a point where everyone's comfortable, and I don't think we're there yet.
Yeah, and the question is, we've got these 3 projects that we're working on that are getting closer. But we've got, 9 more projects out there. What are we gonna do when we get to the last one? Where's that money gonna come from? And is it gonna be fair and equitable to this group? With what we did to the original group? And that there's a lot of uncertainty in that.
Hard to, yeah. hard
Definitely
to know.
uncertainty.
Yeah, at least on the bright side, it seems like we have a finite number of projects, right? I mean, looking through, 11 or so. 11
Knock 3 off, 5 more will come off.
Yeah, I mean, the rules.
Then we'll
rules
have
could change.
maintenance obligations we'll have to pay for. I mean, that comes with the territory of starting a utility.
And there's a lot of smaller projects out there that our guys can just do. We will take care of those.
You're providing a lot of training, it seems, every month on,
We,
in that neighborhood, especially around culverts and outlets and materials. And I know that I've heard from more than one of our crew members at Public Works, just, in and around town and at the parks that, there seems to be a culture shift, and instead of being told what to do, you're being told how and why to do it and then asked to. And heard nothing but good things.
yeah, good.
Yeah.
That's where we want to be.
I mean, is it, I don't know if it's, pleasure of the board or what, but is there, you think, Dave, would you be able to, and I don't mean right here on the spot, but to recommend some kind of language or formula? I know Emily was working on it, but I'm not sure if you've had enough time to wrap your head around all those pieces, but.
Yeah, I would need some more time to really look at that. And try and come up with something. And then, maybe I can come up with some kind of a rough formula, and then we can all talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got so much going on and there are RFPs out. I wouldn't be opposed to
We do have a lot.
setting
going
us,
on.
I wouldn't be opposed to, giving you the time you need, whether it's a couple, 3-4 weeks, whatever you think you need. You're a pretty smart guy. It could be a few hours, I think, if it had to be. I wouldn't be opposed, Mr. Chair, setting a time for a special meeting just about stormwater and talking about this, and maybe setting a hard, 90-minute limit and getting in, getting it out. I mean, I don't think we'll solve it in one meeting, but at least to hear what Dave has to share and give us more time to think about it, and then we'll come back and discuss it.
We talked about getting the state stormwater person up here. We can
Yes, that-
go-
Emily Shelley. I think Carrie was working on that and had her lined up. I'm not sure if there's an exact date for that.
No, there's not yet, but we can put a date on.
I
Yeah.
can talk to her too, because I've dealt with her, or not dealt with her, I've worked with her before on another project.
I mean, definitely just trying to find that balance in who's paying for what,
Yeah.
getting
Now,
the
do you,
project.
do you work
done
with
on
other
time.
people who lead the 6 or 7 other utilities in the state? Do you guys ever bounce emails off of each other to share tips and tricks?
I haven't at this point.
It'd be real nice if we could organize
will.
and try to come up with a formula that we are all comfortable with, that sets a precedent that the state will be
State would.
they've got
recognize
Act
that.
76 that the governor signed that introduced $60 million a year in water quality funding. And the first year that it took effect, Franklin County took in about 400,000 total. And I remember grilling Senator Parent at the time, and he asked the state, and they sent an email back that said, you only got what you asked for. We didn't have very many requests. We weren't organized enough. Now people are organized, we're asking for it, the pot of money's the same. it would make sense, I think, if we could form a cooperative to lobby to capture a certain amount of Act 76 money and delegate it to utilities or MS4 communities, and maybe utilities get extra. I personally questioned a member of the governor's administration about why his agriculture secretary worked so hard to see language passed this year that exempted farms from paying stormwater utility money fees. And my question was simply, you passed the buck on to us and then carved out 20 cents of it. So what do you expect us to do? And your funding issue amounts to about $80,000 a year for St. Albans Town's utility. And the response was, well, we give you 25,000 a year until FY26 when it expires, and that's nice. So I think there needs to be a change in our discussion with the state. There needs to be more numbers. We need to organize better, and we need to take harder stances. The money's available. We need to ask for it correctly. I think we need to be a little more stern, but that's just my opinion.
Or just correct their math.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Pat, real quick question.
I didn't know they dropped the farmers from paying that. I get $150 bill every year for stormwater, and I think it's very unfair when everybody around is paying it. And I think that needs to be looked at, and I think he's right. They do need to cut that, because you're driving people out. Our taxes are high enough now, and they've been going up and up. And I think you seriously need to look at that. If the farmers aren't paid, why if I got paid $162.50, I'll pay the 50 gladly. And I think that needs to be looked at.
The hardest part of cutting the fee is if you cut it in half, you're cutting the ERU from 50 to 25. The state of Vermont pays 68 grand a year roughly on all their ERUs. So we're gonna take in 490 and then give 30 of it right back, 34 or whatever it is, right to the state. And there's no real way to carve that out. Say we're dropping everybody, but we're leaving the state. That's grounds for litigation. So it's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't type deals. I think when we get towards our budget cycle in October, we need to hear more comments from folks who are economically, depressed right now and need help. If that's a real concern within the community, we need to hear about it so we can reflect it within next year's budget and try to.
People, my husband and I are both retired.
Thank you. Anything else on stormwater at this point? But sounds like what we'll try to do is if we can coordinate with a state person to try to set the special select board meeting direct, strictly for that. The goal, I think of coming out with just an easy set of guidance on where we're going to at least start when we're looking at a project in terms of how to fund it. I mean, that's my understanding where we're going. We can do that. That'd be wonderful.
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, we can't keep coming to big projects and figuring out how we're gonna fund them after the fact. There's just gotta be a level set of ground rules that everyone can understand, that you can operate within without knowing you're gonna be questioned every project, and that we can all understand and our successors will understand in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Sean, next item.
Yeah, this is a quick one. It's just publicly, we're gonna be putting up a job posting for our first ever kind of chief financial officer and also assistant town manager. So we'll be looking out for that in the coming days. We'll be making that public. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone then, or any discussion?
So you said assistant town manager?
Yeah, it's kind of CFO / assistant
Oh.
deputy. whatever.
Same, one position.
Yes.
One position. Yep. 2 hats, or actually 21 hats, I think. 21.
And that is my report.
All right, if that's it, we can move on if that's the case. Or no, I guess we'll move on then. Next up, we just got the schedule. So next select board meetings, next one we have is Monday, July 17th. It's a little less than 2 weeks from now, and Monday, August 7th, both at 6:30. We just had on here that the 4th of July, the town offices were closed, but we're after that now. Let's see, I think that's about it, right, for the schedule. Chair's report, just a couple of quick items. July 2nd, we had Bay Day down there. And I was wondering if who was down to give a quick update on how that went. Definitely heard about it. Definitely lots of people.
I watched the fireworks. They were good. That's all. I heard the crowd roaring.
Yep. My brother said they were some of the best he's seen ever. Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
The whoever did this year did a really good job. New trucks down there, so I assume they got somebody new.
Maybe
awesome.
pass that along to our vendors. I heard that it was a slower build up and it took a little longer than previous years and it was worth waiting for.
Yeah.
My little guy didn't make it.
You could never not do enough. Yeah, you can. Well, I watched on TV last night, yeah, you can. But Europe does do that. But it was a good show. They should be added to the thing. I don't know if more it costs us, but what you do. And the crowds, the traffic moves better, so I suspect it was less than the crowd in the park. Just because of the weather. The sun started out really from, well,
Being a
Yeah,
Sunday.
definitely had that kind of weather lately. All over the place.
yeah.
See, I thought I had one other item here. My apologies. I did want to, just gonna mention too, I know, Dave had included that timeline, Dave, just work on the stone house. There it is, yeah. So it seems like you're on schedule with that, just moving along. Is that correct? On the roof of the stone house? And in the sidewalk one as well, right? Just look about that. So, okay, I just know sometimes folks come and ask where we're at with that, and Dave did a nice job a few months back of laying out what that looks like, and looks like we're on schedule with that. So, any other business?
Comment on May Day.
Quick comment? Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah. It's not on. So wrong, came up from the park. Why do they allow people in that park with guns?
We don't.
It was, and he was scared. He was striking my granddaughter
You call the police?
and there was a fight in the baseball. There was one of the base soil fight down there. The
Technically,
same time this was going on.
we allow unloaded weapons in the park.
We do.
We
We
will
allow
do that
unloaded weapons. That's right. Thank you.
For hours.
I mean, with the drinking going on, they shouldn't have weapons in that
They
park.
probably shouldn't have alcohol either, if you really want to go down that route.
I agree. I think it would be a lot better day, Mayday to do away with the rules and no weapons.
But you remember the past, why we stood some days up.
Yeah, because of fights and stuff.
Then all of a sudden we went back to having both events the same day. If that is, if Sunday is a beautiful day. There's been more trouble now.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. You cannot have your fireworks on Bay Day in the same evening, because the ice is coming 10 o'clock in the morning. By 2 in the afternoon, there's stew. By 5 in the afternoon, somebody's fighting over some girl, or some other perceived wrong. And all hell breaks loose. By the time they're ready to go home. It's just.
I make a satirical motion to appoint Paul Larner, town constable, for the portion of monitoring Bay Day.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just it, working. Next year we'll have the city police, which will, sorry, I should say, it'll be the St. Albans Police. We'll have the St. Albans Police down there, and we'll have a little more, hopefully, a little more control over it right now, than now.
Really brought up a lot of things that happen within the donut. They're St. Albans. St. Albans Museum is the St. Albans, it's a whole town, museum. It really is a town museum.
It was the cities,
The police.
or the towns way back.
Our police too.
Yep.
And I doubt if there's anybody that lives in the town that doesn't think the city is their city. You tell your friends you live in St. Albans, they drive into the city, they say what a wonderful place it is. We get it,
Yep,
we live in
exactly.
that nice place too, so it's.
Yep,
You
that's,
can never forget that without downtown St. Albans and all the people there and the good work they do, we would be essentially Georgia.
Yep.
Maybe Fairfax.
That's right.
So you can't have one without the other. I don't think that their revitalization would have been funded or been worth it without our potential growth too. It's a hand in hand.
When did it become St. Albans? Like it's always St. Albans Day.
Now, 1763, and then they split apart, and then late, it was 1898 or so. Yep. So let's, if there's no other business, someone can read our executive session motion, that would be appreciated.
Go ahead, Brandon.
I make a motion to enter executive session to discuss a contractual and personnel matter where premature general public knowledge of the subject matter would place the town or person involved at a substantial disadvantage. I further move to enter into executive session to discuss a contractual and personnel matter under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of Vermont statutes, and to invite in Sean Atkins and Al Vogel, the town manager and director of operations.
And second?
Second.
Will there be any motions coming out of the meeting? That should be recorded?
I don't believe so, no. All in favor?
I
Thank you.